Moshi Moshi, Sig here. Have you ever wanted to live in trees and feel like a Vietnamese rice farmer with primitive weapons and fight off pesky screaming foreigners? Or do you want to become famous for cave exploring, like the guy that got stuck in the Nutty Putty cave, then let us crash and start our new primitive life on an isolated island in the forest? The game can either be played in single player for an intense experience, or in multiplayer for a hilarious experience, because it completely destroys the seriousness of the game. I recently saw a video of two idiots building like primitives in the wilderness and thought to myself, damn, I also have one additional retard besides myself that has also become primitives. Story. Your unfortunate soul got too deep into the VTuber rabbit hole and now you are watching a stream on your flight to Japan and you accidentally get into a plane crash and even worse, you survive it. Oh yeah, and the protagonist's son gets kinda kidnapped. Now it's time to find him and return home safely. For that goal, you need to go exploring the island and cave systems while finding different clues about his whereabouts, like toys from Timmy that are distributed all over the cave system. At the end, you get a keycard to a mysterious lab building deep into the sinkhole. On your journey, you will encounter several cannibals and mutants. More on that later. After reaching the lab, you discover the secret why Tommy got kidnapped and why your plane crashed. Some child had cancer and died, so they used Linus's tech tips to bring her back to life. This process, however, needs a life sacrifice for the favor of a blood god. Pretty primitive for being so high-tech, if you ask me. Timothy got killed and the little girl got resurrected. When we confront her why she's so weak that she died and didn't pull off a Walter White in the first place, she starts throwing a tantrum and mutates into a helicopter. After putting her out of her misery, that is called life, we can choose between two endings. In one, we decide that we touched enough grass for a while now and just want to go back home and watch anime again. For that goal, we cause another plane crash and perform another blood ritual to bring Timmy back to life. Or the other ending is to destroy the artifact that's spreading VTuber propaganda and let the boy die so that we don't have to pay alimony anymore. Can you guess which ending we chose? Gameplay. The Forest is an open world survival crafting game. Let us start with the survival. Unfortunately, you suffer from type 2 diabetes and need to constantly eat some Snickers to have a high enough blood sugar level, otherwise you will meet your timely demise. If you're vegetarian and choose to play as one for some reason, you need to give up berries. Just remember to eat only the white berries, the black ones with red star shaped flower and the red mushrooms. All other plants are only for the weak, but I would advise you against that. The food comes to you naturally and you just have to cut it into pieces and grill it on the fire. It's not cannibalism if you don't consider them human. You only have your basic stats like armor, health, thirst, hunger, stamina and sanity. But you can also gain or lose strength or athleticism depending on your diet and actions, but we don't care about stuff like that here. You can build traps, but you don't have to, because fortunately the animals are more artificial than intelligent and already know that their purpose is to be skinned and eaten by you. Almost everything that you kill can be decapitated and you can collect the heads as a trophy. Most of the wildlife is peaceful and won't retaliate against you. You should definitely kill turtles to collect their shell, to abuse it for bypassing one cave at the end and straight up slide into the final area of the game. You can call me a speedrunner. So you would guess that it requires a lot of farming and crafting. You're wrong. You can, but it's not obligatory. The crafting system is thankfully rather simple because it's not like other survival games where you first need to grind for wood, then stone, then some fucking ore that first needs to be smelted into bars, and so on. You could set up a farm, or actually build something that isn't just a platform on a tree, but I don't have footage for that, because we are lazy and didn't want it to build a lot. We suffered enough in Satisfactory or Ark for that. But there are some very impressive bases that players build in the game, which just shows that it also has the potential for people who like to build a complete fortress with additional torture chambers. You already have blueprints where you just provide the necessary resources for the construct. We chose to become Vietnamese guerrilla soldiers that live in trees and have to protect their country.
Những người da trắng các bạn sẽ cảm nhận được cơn thịnh nộ của chúng tôi và nhận hình phạt.
You could build a fort with good defense or just take the fight directly to them and start a genocide. And if that's not enough, escalate it into the next Holocaust. Which leads me perfectly to the combat. The game's primarily a melee fighting game, even though you can find a gun and a flamethrower later on. You can find or craft different weapons that can be enhanced, which looks completely scuffed and like if you were a child that plays pretend. Look, Mom! I have feathers on my axe! Now it's faster! There are only 3 stats. Speed, how fast can you flail your arms around, damage, how hard do you want to inconvenience them, and block, if you decide to block an incoming attack. I obviously chose the katana, because when you were living your life and actually achieving something meaningful, I studied the blade. And now look who has achieved more. Well, Still not me, but you get the point. Combat is generally janky, but so is the whole game. Other weapons are the axe, the climbing axe, and dismembered legs of your enemies. At the beginning you found a passenger list with all the people that were on your plane, and now you gotta catch them all. You have your normal cannibals in different colors, and then there are the wizard cannibals with fire hands and the Antifa cannibals that throw molotovs at you. But there are also some real beauties, like the spider lady that remind me of other spider women and make me act up. Or you have your many appendages gym bro, or the average American McDonald's enjoyer. Have you ever heard a child scream in your close proximity and were annoyed by it and thought to yourself, if it does not stop screaming soon, I will make it stop? Well, then I got good news for you, because the game features infants as an enemy type. Is it ethically questionable to murder hundreds of infants just because they can't shut up or bump into you? I don't know, I'm not in a position to decide that. Last and least is the one and only boss fight of the game, another child. You will get raided by the native inhabitants frequently, so I hope you lack violence, because peace was never an option, and ultra-violence is mandatory. To show them that you mean business, dismember one of them and build a totem out of his body parts in front of his family. That'll teach him not to mess with you. Also, it's a good thing to build an armor out of their bones. Not only does it give you protection, but it's also highly fashionable. Later on, you can carve out pieces of their body of big mutants and also use that as an armor. It's not me that's overkill. It's their fault for having such a useful skin and bones. Also, you will find red paint that scares the normal cannibals for some reason. Maybe they're like bees and can't see the color red, and you appear like a ghost to them. Cave exploring is a lot like taking a walk in my regional ghetto. You can't see anything because the lights are all destroyed, and you only hear some distant racial slurs before getting mugged. So, not that different from where I live. That's why I felt right at home in the caves. In these caves, the lighter will become your best friend, besides your weapon of choice, because you can't see shit down there without it. The caves are the best spot to gather resources and to get a corona infection. In here, you also find equipment that helps you progress in the story, like the rebreather, which allows you to go diving in the ocean and play Subnautica. You also can't see anything at night in the forest, but then again, you're not some kind of witcher with night vision eyes. You will find a cassette player and several tapes along the way. This item does not only give you stamina and helps the sanity to regenerate, but also turns serious situations into a comedy show. Now let me give you a demonstration. Atmosphere. If you have seen the movie The Descent, then the whole atmosphere will be very familiar to you, because the cave experience is basically the video game adaptation of it, especially if you decide to use the climbing axe as a weapon. The game can be pretty spooky if you would play it in single player. However, if you decide to play it in multiplayer, which is obviously better, you won't get the same experience, because the situation where you would explore a dark cave with minimal light and distant screeching and phenomenal sound design gets turned into a discussion if it is gay to hug your homies naked in a sauna and share a shower, or how you could convince people that you're not a sociopath. Just hypothetically speaking, of course. Then your experience gets turned into a philosophical debate between two primates with both barely reaching 2 digits IQ while committing several war crimes. Is it really a war crime if there are no witnesses left alive? Sorry, I got off track. The graphics are also really nice, especially the tree movement and the cave systems. You maybe noticed that the game looks a lot worse in my video than in other videos. Well, my friend, it's because my PC is utter trash and I can't run the game at a higher quality level without dropping this FPS into the single digits. But if you got a good enough PC, crank it up to max. Oh, and the game has also VR, so you can truly live out your Spelunkophobia. The sound design is one of the best I experienced in a while. All sounds are quite fitting and play a big role for setting the mood. Here's a quick demonstration of the intended atmosphere. Don't worry, I didn't put any jump scares in it. Just remember to use your 8D surround sound system for the full experience for a few moments, until you hear my voice again. Alright, enough of this ASMR bullshit. Critique. The game still feels like an early access game sometimes, and unfortunately crashes and bugs are common, although it's highly subjective. But I wouldn't mind them except for one, where for some reason my game decided to disconnect from the server after playing for 4 hours without saving, and I lost a big portion of my equipment, so I had to get at least my scuba diving gear back, so that I could continue the story. The missing dodge function is truly regrettable, because I hoped for a more Dying Light experience, but for some reason, my friends and I always liked more Janky games, because a lot of funnier situations arise from that, even though it can also corrupt your save file and destroy your progress. So, if you either want to have a good time with friends in a multiplayer game, or if you want a good horror experience, or make your fear of caves even worse, then I can only recommend this game. Just be ready to maybe accept potential jank, and if you decide to play multiplayer, for an escalation of violence. The game gets a score of possibly some war crimes out of The Descent. And with these words, I hope you liked this video, and have a nice day. Goodbye!